Turn the volume up. Listen to my whispers. Close you eyes, and let the darkness take shape around you. Every creak, every breath, every shadow you imagine is part of the story. Are you ready? They say every fairy tale was once a warning, that before the stories were softened, polished, and sung to children at night, they were whispers in the dark, meant to keep us away from the woods. There are forests older than kingdoms, deeper than dreams, and inside them, the rules are not the ones we know. In one such forest, long ago, a girl fled from envy and stumbled upon a cottage that seemed safe, glowing softly in the dusk, like a heartbeat in the dark. 7 doors, 7 chairs, 7 smiles. But hunger wears many faces, and kindness, when it lingers too long, begins to rot. This is not the tale they tell to children. This is the story the forest remembers, of Snow White and the 7 hungers. Once upon a time, in a forest older than memory, there stood a cottage that smelled of pine, smoke, and something faintly sweet, the way decay can smell sweet if you breathe in too long. Snow White found it one evening while running from her stepmother's huntsman. Her white dress was torn, her hands bloodied from thorns, her heart hammering like a caged bird. The forest had swallowed her whole, and yet, somehow, it seemed to whisper her name, Snow White. When she stumbled upon the cottage, she thought it salvation. She was wrong. It was smaller than she imagined, its roof thick with moss, its windows like 2 tired eyes sunk deep in the skull of the forest. But the door was open, and warmth spilled out. Firelight flickered within, casting shapes that danced along the walls. Inside, everything was too clean. The dishes gleamed, the floor shone, and 7 tiny wooden chairs stood in a neat row, each one carved with a name. Doc, grumpy, happy, sleepy, bashful, sneezy, dopey. She smiled, thinking it all rather quaint, and soon fell asleep across their beds, worn down by exhaustion and fear. When she awoke, the 7 were standing around her. They were not quite what the stories say. Their faces were wrong, stretched, pale, their eyes glassy, with an old, hungry sort of madness. Each one stared at her, lips dry, tongues flicking nervously as if tasting the air. The one called Doc smiled first. "You're awake," he said, voice low and kind. "Too kind. You smell lovely." Snow White sat up quickly. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. I was lost." "Lost?" echoed Grumpy. "She says she was lost." "Oh, we found her," murmured Happy. We did. And such fine skin." They began to whisper to one another, voices overlapping like rustling leaves. Only Sleepy said nothing. His head tilted slightly, eyes half closed, as if listening to something deep within the earth. Snow White thanked them for their kindness and offered to cook. The dwarves agreed eagerly. That night they feasted mushrooms, herbs, and soup. The 7 dwarves watched her eat, none of them touching their bowls. Days passed. Snow White made herself useful, cleaning, cooking, humming softly to keep her fears away. But the forest never stopped whispering. At night, she dreamed of roots that pulsed like veins, of shadows moving behind the trees, of 7 small shapes crouching around her bed, breathing in time with her heartbeat. When she asked Doc about it, he only smiled. "The forest provides," he said. "It takes and it gives. It gave us you." His teeth were small, white, and much too sharp. That evening, when Snow White went to fetch water from the well, she noticed that her reflection trembled. Her face rippled, her skin waxy, her eyes hollow. The water turned red, though no wound marked her body. Behind her, something moved in the trees, 7 shapes watching her. When she turned, they were gone. A week later, a woman came to the cottage. Her face was hidden beneath a hood. She carried a basket of apples and spoke with a voice cracked and weary. "For the young mistress of the house," she said, "a gift to keep her heart pure." Snow White thanked her kindly, for she missed the taste of fruit. She took 1 bite and fell. The dwarves found her on the floor, the apple beside her. Doc leaned close and sniffed. "Poison," he whispered, "a curse of the queen." They gathered around her body, silent. But something passed between them, a glance, an understanding. Not sorrow, anticipation. Snow White awoke, sometime later in the dark. She could not move. Her body was cold, her arms stiff. She was lying on a wooden table, her skin covered with herbs and oil. The smell was strange, sweet, and smoky. Then she heard voices. "She's ripe now," said Happy. "The poison's gone," muttered Doc. "Cleansed her, it did." "She'll be tender," said Bashful. "So soft." Snow White tried to scream, but her voice caught. She felt a knife against her wrist, not cutting. Not yet, just testing. "We've waited so long," whispered Sleepy, his eyes finally open. "The forest promised. It always delivers." Snow White's heart thundered. Somehow she found her voice. "Please," she gasped, "don't." Grumpy leaned close, his breath warm and foul. "You shouldn't have come here," he said. "You should have stayed lost." The knife pressed down. They didn't kill her quickly. They sang as they worked, voices high and trembling, their song echoing through the hollow trees. Hey-ho, hey-ho, the forest takes what's owed. Each cut was careful, reverent. They treated her like a gift, not a victim. Doc carved, Happy seasoned, Bashful stirred the pot. When they were done, they sat around the table and ate in silence. Outside, the forest hummed. The wind through the branches sounded almost like laughter. When the queen came days later, drawn by the silence in her mirror, she found the cottage empty. No dwarves, no Snow White, only 7 small chairs, and bones neatly stacked by the hearth. But as she turned to leave, something in the shadows stirred. 7 small shapes, half-formed, crawling on all 4s. Their faces were changing, stretching, whitening, soft as snow. And one of them whispered, "Mother!" The queen screamed. The forest swallowed the sound. They say if you walk deep enough into that forest, on nights when the moon is pale and thin, you can still hear them, 7 voices, humming an old working song. And sometimes, if you listen carefully, you can hear an 8th, a softer voice, sweeter than the rest. Snow White still sings with them now. Only her song is a lullaby for the lost. And those who follow her melody too deep into the woods never come out again. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed tonight's story, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more nightmares.